Good morning, everybody. I'm going to read again from The Hobbit. So they've been trekking over a large, wide space of land looking for Rivendell, the last homely house. We talked about what homely meant yesterday. Bilbo never forgot the way they slithered and slipped in the dusk down the steep zigzag path into the secret valley of Rivendell. The air grew warmer as they got lower, and the smell of pine trees made him drowsy, so that every now and again he nodded and nearly fell off. Kind of like you guys in class sometimes. I've seen you nodding, nodding. Or bumped his nose on his pony's neck. Their spirits rose as they went down and down. The trees changed to beech and oak, and there was a comfortable feeling in the twilight. The last green had almost faded out of the grass when they came at length to an open glade not far above the banks of the stream. It smells like elves, thought Bilbo, and he looked up at the stars. They were burning blue and bright. Just then came a burst of song like laughter in the trees. I'm not going to sing it for you, I'm just going to recite it. "Oh, what are you doing and where are you going? Your ponies need shoeing, the river is flowing. Oh, tra la 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 la, down in the valley. Where are you going with beards all a wagging? No knowing, no knowing. What brings Mr. Baggins and Balin and Dwalin down into the valley in June? Ha ha! Or will you be staying or will you be flying? Your ponies are straying, the daylight is dying. To fly would be folly, to stay would be jolly. And listen and hark till the end of the dark to our tune. Ha ha! Yeah, they'd never heard of rap, so they weren't really hip to that. So they laughed and sang in the trees, and pretty fair nonsense, I dare say you think it. Not that they would care, they'd only laugh all the more if you told them so. They were elves, of course. Soon Bilbo caught glimpses of them as the darkness deepened. He loved elves, though he seldom met them, but he was a little frightened of them, too. Dwarves don't get on well with them. Even decent enough dwarves like Thorin and his friends think them foolish, which is a very foolish thing to think. Or got annoyed with them. For some elves tease dwarves and laugh at them, and most of all about their beards. You know, there's a rumor that even the women dwarves have beards. Well, well, said a voice, just look. Bilbo the Hobbit on a pony, my dear. Isn't it delicious? Most astonishingly wonderful. And there they are laughing at Bilbo on his pony, kind of teasing him. And off they went into another song as ridiculous as the first one. At last, a tall young fellow came out of the tree and bowed to Gandalf and to Thorin. Welcome to the valley, he said. Thank you, said Thorin a bit gruffly. But Gandalf was already off his horse and among the elves, talking merrily with them. You're a little out of your way, said the elf. That is, if you are making for the only path across the water and to the house beyond. We'll set you right, but you best get on foot until you're over the bridge. Are you going to stay a bit and sing with us, or will you go straight on? Supper's preparing over there, he said. I can smell the wood fires for the cooking. Tired as he was, Bilbo would have liked to stay a while. Elvish singing is not a thing to miss. In June, under the stars. Not if you care for such things. Also, he would have liked to have had a few private words with these people that seemed to know his names and all about him, although he had never seen them before. He thought their opinion of his adventures might be interesting. Elves know a lot and are wondrous folks for news, and know what's going on among the peoples of the land as quick as water flows, or even quicker. But the dwarfs were all for supper as soon as possible just then, and would not stay. On they all went, leading their ponies till they were brought to a good path, and so at last to the very brink of the river. It was flowing fast and noisily, as mountain streams do of a summer evening, when the sun had been all day on the snow far above. There was only a narrow bridge of stone without a parapet, as narrow as a pony could walk over, and over that they had to go slow and careful, one by one, each leading his pony by the bridle. The elves had brought bright lanterns to the shore, and they sang a merry song as the party went across. "Don't dip your beard in the foam, father," they cried to Thorin, who was bent almost onto his hands and knees. "It's long enough without watering it." "Mind Bilbo doesn't eat all the cakes," they yelled. "He's too fat to get through keyholes yet." "Hush, hush, good people, and good night," said Gandalf, who came at last. "Valleys have ears, and some elves have over merry tongues. Good night." And so at last they all came to the last homely house and found its doors flung wide. Now it's a strange thing, but things that are good to have and days that are good to spend are soon told about and not much to listen to, while things that are uncomfortable, palpitating, and even gruesome may make a good tale and take a good deal of telling anyway. Yeah, if you watch the news, it's always about the bad stuff. It's never about the good stuff. But the good stuff doesn't make good news, does it? Mrs. Smith's puppy had puppies. Not very interesting. But if we had bad news, we're really interested. They stayed long in that good house, 14 days at least, and they found it hard to leave. Bilbo would gladly have stopped there forever and ever, even supposing a wish could have taken him back to his hobbit hole without trouble. Yet there's little to tell about their stay. The master of the house was an elf friend, one of those people whose fathers came into the strange stories before the beginning of history. The wars of the evil goblins and the elves, and the first men in the north. In those days of our tale, there were still some people who had both elves and heroes of the north for ancestors, and Elrond, the master of the house, was their chief. He was as noble and as fair in face as an elf lord, as strong as a warrior, as wise as a wizard, as venerable as a king of dwarves, and as kind as summer. He comes into many tales, and you may have heard of him in Lord of the Rings, but his part in the story of Bilbo's great adventure is only a small one, though important, as you'll see if we ever get to the end of it. His house was perfect, whether you like food or sleep or work, or storytelling or singing, or just sitting and thinking best, or a pleasant mixture of them all. Evil things did not come into that valley. I wish I had time to tell you even a few of the tales, or one or two of the songs that I heard in that house. All of them, the ponies as well, grew refreshed and strong in a few days there. Their clothes were mended as well as their bruises, their tempers, and their hopes. Their bags were filled with food and provisions light enough to carry, but strong to bring them over the mountain passes. Their plans were improved with the best advice, though the time came to Midsummer Eve and they were to go on again with the early sun on Midsummer morning. Elrond knew all about the runes of every kind. So I'm going to show you. There's Elrond looking at a map, trying to figure it out. Looking at the runes. He's going to figure out the swords in a minute. That day he looked at the swords that they brought from the troll's lair and he said, "These are not troll make. They are old swords, very old swords of the high elves of the west, my kin. They were made in Gondolin for the Goblin Wars. They must have come from a dragon's hoard or goblin plunder, for dragons and goblins destroyed that city many ages ago. This, Thorin, the runes name Orcrist, the goblin cleaver in the ancient tongue of Gondolin. It was a famous blade. This Gandalf is Glamdring, foe hammer, that the king of Gondolin once wore. Keep them well." "Whence did the trolls get them, I wonder?" said Thorin, looking at his sword with new interest. "I couldn't say," said Elrond, "but one may guess that your trolls had plundered other plunderers, or come on the remnants of old robberies in some hold in the mountains. I've heard that there are still forgotten treasures of old to be found in the deserted caverns of the mines of Moria since the dwarf and goblin war." Thorin pondered these words. "I will keep this sword with honor," he said. "May it soon cleave goblins once again." Thorin pondered these words. "A wish that is likely to be granted soon enough in the mountains," said Elrond. "But show me the map." He took it and gazed long at it, and he shook his head, for if he did not altogether approve of dwarfs and their love of gold, He hated dragons and their cruel wickedness, and he grieved to remember the ruin of the town of Dale and its merry bells and the burned banks of the bright river running. The moon was shining in a broad silver crescent. He held the map up, and the white light of the moon shone through it. "What is this?" he said. "There are moon letters here besides the plain runes, which say 5 feet high the door and 3 may walk abreast." "What are moon letters?" asked the hobbit, full of excitement. He loved maps, as I've told you before, and he also liked runes and letters and cunning handwriting, though when he wrote himself it was a bit thin and spidery. "Moon letters are rune letters, but you cannot see them," said Elrond, "not when you look straight at them. They can only be seen when the moon shines behind them, and what's more, with the more cunning sort, it must be a moon of the same shape and season as the day when they were written. The dwarves invented them and wrote them with silver pens, as your friends should be able to tell you. These must have been written on a midsummer's eve, in a crescent moon, a long while ago." "What do they say?" said Gandalf and Thorin together, a bit vexed perhaps that Elrond should have found this out first. Oh, really, there'd not been a chance before, and there would not be another chance until goodness knows when. Remember, it's written on a midsummer moon's evening in the dark with a moon, crescent moon. "Stand by the grey stone where the thrush knocks," read Elrond. I'll read that again. "Stand by the grey stone where the thrush knocks, and the setting sun with the last light of Durin's day will shine upon this keyhole." "Durin," said Thorin. "He was the father of the fathers of the eldest race of dwarves, the Longbeards, and my first ancestor. I'm his heir." "Then what is Durin's day?" asked Elrond. "The first day of the dwarves' new year," said Thorin. It's all we should know." Excuse me, I'll read that again because I'm getting confiscated. "The first day of the dwarves' new year is as all should know, the first day of the last moon of autumn on the threshold of winter." So the last moon of autumn on the threshold of winter. That's kind of like Thanksgiving time for us. We still call it Durin's Day when the last moon of autumn and the sun are in the sky together. But this will not help us much, I fear, for it passes our skill in these days to guess when such a time will come again." "That remains to be seen," says Gandalf. "Is there any more writing?" "None to be seen by this moon," said Elrond, and he gave the map back to Thorin. And then they went down to the waters to see the elves dance and sing upon the midsummer's eve. The next morning was a midsummer's morning, as fair and fresh as could be dreamed, blue sky and never a cloud, and the sun dancing on the water. Now they rowed away amid songs of farewell and good speed, with their hearts ready for more adventure, and a knowledge of the road they must follow of the misty mountains to the land beyond. And I'll stop there because it's the end of the chapter. But there you can see Gandalf and Bilbo are riding away on their ponies, and you can see how small Bilbo is. So you guys have a good afternoon, good evening, have a rest, and I will continue reading tomorrow.